Hey guys, I'm Tirthankar. Welcome to Serious. You're gonna have a very good next year at Serious. My project was on mobile payments, and before I get started, I was actually intrigued by the question you asked about what really surprised you before you started the project and while you were at it. For me, when I chose this project, I was really interested to look at how Google is doing on the wallet front, because they have been at the wallet for the last 4 years or so, and how PayPal is doing it, how other big firms are trying to cash in. But what really surprised me was a bunch of startups are trying to cash in a lot. And that's what surprised me, and I'm going to talk a lot more about that the next 7-8 minutes. So I'm going to run through quickly here, but if you have more questions, you can always ask me over emails. Mobile payments, the way I structured it was I looked at the current trends and why mobile payment is so important at this juncture, and then also the key players, where, as I said, big IT giants as well as the startups, and some challenges and future trends coming up. So why are we all talking about this? Is because the current total volume of global credit card payments is about $6.2 trillion, and if you look at those two figures, your total volume of global mobile payments was about 240 billion 3 years back, and by 2015 it's going to be 670 billion. By 2017 it's going to be 720 billion, and that's why it's so big. Just think about a 2% transaction fee on these payments. It's huge, right? It's about 4 billion for a company, and that's why it's a huge potential. And the bottom slide, it talks about how much mobile payments are being used by different age group of people. And as you can see, millennials, they're like 40% of millennials are using mobile payments, but then they probably don't have enough money to spend on mobile payments than the Gen Xers. But then as the age group increases, the spending power increases, but then the adoption rate is much lower there. So there is a push to get these people into mobile payments. And this is also important because this talks about the value chain and the key players. So first off, you need a bank. You also need a telecom operator usually, because they provide the infrastructure, the network infrastructure. You also need a payment network like Visa, MasterCard, Amex, and you need a mobile phone. So you have manufacturers there. You need Android or iOS or any other smart OS right now. And software platform is basically your app developers. You can, as we walk through, we'll see a lot of apps coming up. And the important player is the POS network, which is the point of sale network. So the cash registers, they usually have their own networks. And so they're an integral part of this value chain. And of course the retail ecosystem, because for retailers it's very important to adopt mobile payments, because it's not just facilitate faster money transaction, but it also helps them to collect more data, and it feeds into their loyalty programs. Next is, I looked at the MasterCard Payment Readiness Index, and that basically ranks different countries based on their infrastructure or consumer readiness. As you can see, Singapore, Canada, US are currently top. What's really surprised me was Kenya, and that's because of their mobile money transfer, P2P money transfer system called M-Pesa company. And they're like how different countries have done well on different parameters of this index. I'm going to skip over these and come to the crux of the presentation, which is about mobile payments in 3 different segments. The first is mobile wallets, which all of us have kind of heard of. Point of sale payments, which is when you make the sale, instead of swiping your card, you can like bump it or use an NFC device. And third is mobile money transfer. So things like PayPal that you can actually, without going your desktop, you can do it from your phone. So first up is mobile wallets, and the value chain has the same integral players. What's really interesting is, different players in this value chain are trying to get a bigger piece of the pie. And what I mean by that is, look at the key players there. You have got mobile platform providers like Google, PayPal, Apple. They're thinking about, at least Google and PayPal, they have their own mobile wallet systems. You also have network service provider like T-Mobile, Verizon, AT&T, who have their own wallet apps. And you have also got financial institutions like Visa and MasterCard who have their own wallet systems, and how they're kind of fighting against each other or sharing the network. First is mobile platform providers. You have got Google Wallet, PayPal Wallet, and there are a bunch of small players, here who have their own wallet systems. Google runs on NFC-enabled, or used to run on NFC-enabled Android phones. The problem was NFC was only available on Android, and especially in Nexus, Samsung didn't have NFC-enabled phones. And for NFC-enabled phones, you really need a lot of help from the network infrastructure, which is like Verizon or AT&T, and they shunned Google Wallet because they wanted to come up with their own wallet apps, just to get the bigger piece of the pie. PayPal Wallet actually works with iBeacon, which is a better version, or it's a different technology. It's a much better technology than NFC, and is getting higher adoption rate at this point. But on the other side, you've got there's a company called ISIS, which is a joint venture between AT&T, Verizon, and T-Mobile. They launched their NFC-enabled mobile wallet last year, and the USP basically was much stronger security, and they mitigated a lot of security concerns because most of the transactions information is stored in the hardware level, and that is really secured. The problem, however, is that this wallet app is not very user-friendly compared to Google Wallet and other devices, and they only run on Android. So Google again has some power over it. And then finally, you have financial institutions. They have their own. So, for example, Visa and MasterCard are pretty big here. They have got their own wallet systems, and they run on NFC again. But then, if you look at the MasterCard announcements and 10K, they've clearly mentioned that the fact that they've got their own apps does not mean that they don't want to share the infrastructure. They don't want to discourage Google or any other similar wallet competitors to get into the market. They want more and more mobile payments. So as the mobile payment segment grows, number of people using the mobile payments will grow, and that will increase their share of the entire market. So they are also sharing the infrastructure, very unlike the network service providers who are having very narrow-mindedness here. Next was point of sale payment solutions, and one of the bigger names here is Square, which is a very small company, still private. But then the way they work is you have got this a small knob here which you can connect with your audio jack in your phone or iPad, and this is almost free to anyone who wants to buy. So if you've got a yard sale and you want to give people another option of apart from cash, they can also use their credit cards. This is what you need to buy, and then you can actually get the premise is that you can get more people because now you are giving them another option apart from paying cash. So if you're a babysitter, there were examples that even babysitters use it, and a lot of small companies are using it, or normal people are using it. So that is driving a lot of volume. The problem here is their customer service is not that great. You don't have a live support, and if you're doing a credit card transaction, there is some sort of problem, you don't want the customer to be hanging while you get back to him a day or two later. There are bigger players who came into this business like PayPal and Intuit, and then there are some other companies, but PayPal and Intuit, they have much better customer service, direct live customer support, which is a very strong plus. The transaction payment systems are different, but the plus is that they make sure that the money is transferred to the merchant's account much faster than Square. And then with the point of sale, there are other companies like Shopkeep and other companies who, apart from just the transaction, they also provide inventory management for these small businesses. And it used to be very expensive, of course, but then these are all cloud-based solutions, so it comes at much cheaper rates. So now small businesses can also afford sophisticated inventory management. And the third leg was money transfer platforms, and you have got a bunch of small apps. One of the interesting ones is Bump, where instead of, in addition to sharing your contact by bumping your phone, you can also make money transfer bumping your phone. Only works on Apple, I guess, Apple OS. And then there are a lot of small companies and as well as bigger players who are providing mobile money transfer system, which is seamless, and the game is how fast you can get. However, there are still challenges, right? And that's why we haven't seen the adoption rate to be like really skyrocketing. And one of the bigger challenges is standardization, because you've got NFC, you've got HEC, which is a cloud-based solution, and you have got the beacon technology. But then everyone has to eventually adopt the best technology, and that has to be like widespread adopted. Security is still a big concern, but then with the advent of social media, there is a lot of leverage through the social media to also connect it with your loyalty programs or get more people into the system. And then scalability is also important, because you need the more number of people comes in, that helps these startup apps to gain more traction. And then sharing is the notion of how Visa or MasterCard are sharing the infrastructure with other competitors, whereas network service providers are more narrow-minded and they are not willing to share this pie. And obviously speed is more about the infrastructure and the speed at which the money gets transferred to your actual bank account. Well, in future, maybe we'll see more wearable tech implementing such mobile payment options. And Amazon is also trying to get into the market with their Kindle-based POS systems. And Amazon has got like credit card information of 230 million users. The moment they want to get into this market, they're going to be a big player. PayPal, they're really coming up with a very cool incentive, and that is they're actually incentivizing the small businesses to adopt the POS system. So they have something called cash for register, which means they ask the small businesses to return their cash registers for free, and they will provide them a new point of solution, card reader. And they are doing it in partnerships with small other companies like Shopkeep, Vend, or eReply. And next is, as I talked about, there are different competing technologies, and in future we'll probably see NFC going into oblivion and beacon technologies coming into the forefront. And then there are a lot of consolidations going on in the market where bigger players are trying to gobble up more successful startups, and then some successful startups who are able to sustain themselves are going for an IPO. And finally, the mobile payments are still going up. The share of traffic and share of sales during Thanksgiving in the last 4 years, you can see the mobile payment share is trending upwards at a very steep rate. So that's it for the mobile payments. Well,
did you look at all into adoption of cryptocurrencies like Bitcoin and how that might affect this industry?
I have seen that, and a lot of people are talking about it, but then the companies are really skeptical about adopting this cryptocurrency, the Bitcoins, etc., because of a lot of negative press going on about it. There has been a lot of scandals. People who were intrinsically involved in Bitcoins are in jail right now, and that's why companies are very skeptical. However, a lot of companies and a lot of governments like Germany and Canada are allowing cryptocurrency adoptions, but not much traction going on at this point. Yeah.
So right now, Apple doesn't have its own mobile payment
Right.
system, but there are speculations that with the introduction of its fingerprint authentication mechanism, they're going to enter this market sooner or later.
Right.
How do you think that this will disrupt the market or change the composition of the market if Apple enters this market?
Well, first of all, they've got a very strong ecosystem already, right? People using Apple iOS, they are currently in that ecosystem already. You have got, if you want to buy anything or download any app on your iOS or iPhone, you just have to give your fingerprint and you can download. So I think it's just like Amazon, when they hit the ground, they'll hit the ground running. However, lot of sharing is also important here, and they have to work with, you know, once Apple get into the market, there will be financial institutions who would want, you know, more share. And the same thing happened with Google, right? They were big when they came in, but then it's just because they didn't get traction with other players of the value chain, and they couldn't do well with the Google Wallet. They're still struggling. I think Apple has to learn from that. From in my perspective, they have to learn from the Google story and adopt accordingly.
I'm under the impression that in this value chain, the telecom companies are holding, are kind of like the gatekeepers. If we look at M-Pesa, behind M-Pesa is Vodafone, and also obviously the telecom companies hold the credit cards of all of us using the phone. How do you, or how should the software companies incentivize the telecoms to really kind of allow them to be a stronger player in this space, or kind of work together to push out mobile payments?
Right. I think telecom companies at this point are a big competitor, especially to even with the credit card companies, not just like the software companies. Because I think we had a similar discussion with Jeff before. Like, if you have your Verizon account, right? Verizon bills your credit card every month, right?
Yeah.
So all the payments that you make from your Verizon account could be actually billed at the end of the month from Verizon itself, right? So they can also act as a big financial, you know, player in this market. For software companies, I think they have to really understand. There are probably two ways out. One, you know, companies like Google are already doing it. They realize that NFC is a technology which makes then telecom providers more powerful, because you have to go through the telecom providers if you want to establish an NFC based solution, and they're moving away from that solution just to reduce the power that the telecom providers have. And so that's one option. The other option would be to, you know, give in to the fact that telecom providers at some point of time will have that power, and probably you have to take a cut on the commission that you can charge on the transactions and give a bigger piece of the pie to the telecom providers. I mean, if you ask for my personal opinion, I would say the former would be a better option. You drive more technologies which limits the power of the telecom providers, like HEC, cloud-based solutions, or the beacon solution, and that's the only way that you can, you know, preempt the threat.
Thanks.